A record turnout of more than 1.1 million Minnesotans voted in this week's primary elections, including about 700,000 who cast ballots in Democratic races. That includes the primary for U.S. Senate, won by our next guest, progressive and current Lieutenant Governor of the state, Peggy Flanagan, who joins us now. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it. For people around the country who just kind of tuned in over the last few days to the state of Minnesota, particularly to your race where you defeated Angie Craig, can you talk a little bit about the issues that broke through for you and why you believe you won?
Sure, absolutely. So this campaign was really about the many versus the money. I don't take any corporate PAC money, and I'm people powered. We ran a strong grassroots campaign, and we won. I want folks to be able to afford the lives they want to live, fighting for things like Medicare for all, banning prior authorization, and making sure that farmers can fix their own damn equipment through a right to repair. And I also want to be really clear that, the Operation Metro Surge, what we experienced here in Minnesota, galvanized a lot of people to show up for their neighbors. And that same organizing infrastructure was activated as we then went into August into this primary. And so I think people are fired up to push back against the Trump administration. And we're going to carry that energy into the general election as well.
I was going to ask you about that latter point, Lieutenant Governor. The events of January of this year, the shooting deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, galvanized not just Minnesota, but a lot of people across the country, opened their eyes to what's happening in communities all over the country. What is the feeling right now? And it crossed party lines, by the way. A lot of Republicans don't like what they're seeing. This is not what they wanted from this immigration enforcement. They were told it was going to get the worst of the worst out of the country. That's obviously not been the case. So how important has that issue of ICE, of immigration enforcement, been in terms of getting your voters out?
I mean, I think when we have seen the economic impact to Minnesota, the trauma, especially to our children, and as you mentioned, the loss of life, 2 Minnesotans were killed. That has changed us. And while the national media may have moved on a bit, we are still dealing with that here. I think it really was about, judgment. My opponent, voted to thank ICE, also voted for the Lake and Riley Act, which I think gave the green light for many of the things that we experienced here. But this work continues because Michelle Tafoya, who's my Republican opponent, she used footage of ICE in the streets of Minnesota in her launch video, and recently said, she said ICE treated children really, really well. We'll tell that to Liam Ramos or to the children who've been separated from their parents. This agency is completely out of control, answers only to Donald Trump, and we can't elect any more yes sir senators who are going to continue to empower Donald Trump's ICE and this out of control agency.
Well, Madam Lieutenant Governor, it does seem that Donald Trump is particularly fixated on the state of Minnesota. You mentioned, of course, what happened there with ICE, but also just in the last couple of weeks, the news that intel agencies concluded that Iran attempted to hack into some water systems there, and Trump dismissed that and instead blamed the governor, Governor Walz, and the state there for this. So with that as the backdrop, I mean, if you were to be elected to the Senate, how do you manage that, representing a state which is clearly in the White House's crosshairs?
Well, I think the message that we sent in the primary, the message that was sent as people gathered 50,000 strong, marching through the streets of downtown Minneapolis in negative 40-degree temperatures, is that we are not powerless in the face of Donald Trump. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are a target. But it also means that is, why we need to ensure that we turn out this fall, that we send a Democrat to Washington from Minnesota, but also in elections all across this country. We need a check on Donald Trump. He's driving the economy off the cliff. He is enriching himself to the tune of over, $1 billion directly from the White House. The grift has to stop. I think people understand this. And we need to ensure that a Democratic House and Senate is one of the ways that we push back on this guy and get us to a place where, we put working families first and not Donald Trump and his billionaire besties, and continue to empower this just lawless agency that's been allowed to kill with impunity. These elections are incredibly important. We sent a strong message this week, and we're going to do it again in the fall.
Congratulations on your decisive primary victory. I wanted to ask you, this election, there's a lot of undertones of outsider versus insider. There's a lot of undertones about we want someone who's not really been part of government. And of course, the challenge against running someone like your opponent, running against them, is they have no record. So what is it, besides you mentioned immigration and obviously her support by Donald Trump, but what is an issue that you think you can drive home against your opponent? Because clearly saying she doesn't have any experience, this is not the election to emphasize that, right?
Well, I think you're right, Senator. Here's what I know, though. When Michelle Tafoya was asked about the rising cost of fuel prices, her advice was for Minnesota, Minnesotans to keep a stiff upper lip and take one less trip to Starbucks. I can't think of something that is more disconnected from what Minnesotans and Americans are experiencing right now. To simply suck it up, that sounds like someone who's going to do, Donald Trump's bidding. And we've got these folks who are either, proud MAGA or scared MAGA. Either way, they give Donald Trump whatever it is that he wants. We can't afford that. And so I think Michelle Tafoya is out of touch. And I grew up, I know how to stretch $20 through the end of the month. I have been fighting for working families to be able to afford their lives. When I ran the Children's Defense Fund, I co-chaired the campaign to raise the minimum wage in our state and index it to inflation. When my, daughter was an infant, still portable on my hip, I was one of the co-founders of Minnesotans for Paid Family and Medical Leave. We got that done because you get what you organize for here in Minnesota. And these are our policies that are helping people to afford their lives. And so that is what this campaign is about. I am fighting for working families. Michelle Tafoya will simply be, another yes sir senator for Donald Trump. And we absolutely cannot afford that. Minnesotans cannot afford Michelle Tafoya.
Lieutenant Governor, as you know, one of the lines of criticism you'll hear in this general election, and you also heard, by the way, during the primary from Angie Craig, another Democrat, was your role as Lieutenant Governor in this Medicare fraud scandal that is a real thing. There are prosecutions. There have been charges around it. You'll be hearing about it certainly from Michelle Tafoya as well. How do you answer those questions about your role and perhaps not doing enough to stop that as Lieutenant Governor?
Well, I would say, that fraud of any kind is completely unacceptable. Minnesotans are angry, and I am too, as someone who ran a nonprofit organization that served children and families. The very idea that people would steal taxpayer monies, for their own grift is unacceptable. There have been measures put in place to stop fraud, to prevent it from happening in the first place, and more absolutely needs to be done. But what I need to be clear about is that Republicans are going to run against every Democrat on fraud because they want to distract from what is happening under the most corrupt president we have ever seen. They want to talk about fraud. We have to talk about the fact that right out of the gate, Donald Trump got rid of 17 inspectors general whose whole job it is to police fraud at the federal level. He's pardoned 70 white collar criminals who have stolen billions of dollars in Medicaid and Medicare. And every day, This guy is making money hand over fist from the Oval Office through his meme coin and cryptocurrency, through hundreds of millions of dollars in insider trading. And Michelle Tafoya and Republicans up and down the ballot are going to have to answer for that. The grift has to stop, and Minnesotans and Americans have had enough. This guy looks out only from himself and leaves everybody else behind.
No argument on that point. Do you deserve any responsibility, though, Lieutenant Governor, for those fraud schemes that have taken place in your state over the last several years?
I would say, the governor says the buck stops with him. More should have been done sooner, and I agree. And now we know that 100 people have been charged, 60 have been convicted. We know that the head of Feeding Our Future, Amy Bach, she has received 41 years plus 8 months. And to that, I say good. That matters. And we have to make sure that going forward that Donald Trump is not allowed to continue to make money hand over fist by simply, being in power. These are the checks I think that Minnesotans are looking for in Washington, D.C. And those are the things that I'm going to fight for folks to be able to afford the lives they want to live and make sure that this out of control presidential administration has checks. And then as we go into 2028, we are electing a Democratic president and making sure that we've got a strong infrastructure to turn out the vote. We're growing our party, bringing new folks in. And we continue to win and recover and repair what this guy has broken.
Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in Minnesota. We'll be watching your race very closely. Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.